I haven't tweeted like a legitimate like tweet in like over a year. I've never posted to Instagram, never to Facebook, never to LinkedIn. So I've done no social media. All my growth, everything comes from my open rate is 50%. My click-through rate is 10 to 15%. And so it's like 20,000 people. It just works. I'm more profitable now than I ever was in corporate America. And now I make more money than I did. I'm not here to brag, but I love it. It's so fun. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life. It's super dead simple. I know it's lame. I know it's not the hippest, coolest, latest thing, but it works, folks.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We are here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name's John Ainsworth, and today's guest is Chris Zukowski. Now, Chris is a game marketing consultant and strategist. He's helped games as a service companies, indie publishers, and small to single person teams to understand their audience, communicate with them in a more personal way. And today, we're going to talk about why you don't need social media to build an audience and sell courses, why blogging is cooler than you think, and why Chris doesn't have an opinion on things until he's done the research, made a spreadsheet, and looked at a graph of it. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
So can you give the audience some idea of the size of your business? Doesn't need to be revenue, could be team size, number of customers, audience size, whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, it's just me. I'm like a one-man band. I was telling people, I keep it dead simple, John. Here's a deal. It's like I came from corporate America. My companies keep getting smaller and smaller. Like out of college, I worked at IBM. IBM was like, I think at the time, like 800,000 people. And then I worked for American Airlines and then a startup. And now it's down to one. I can't get any smaller than I am now. Otherwise, it's just, I'm out of a job. So I think retirement is my last thing. But yeah, I just kind of got tired of the corporate rat race. I kind of always did this game stuff on the side. And eventually it got big enough and I took a risk and I was like, I'm just going to quit my job. And so I did, and it worked out. And so I'm more profitable now than I ever was in corporate America. I got up to be a manager and stuff. And I just hated doing status meetings and like stand-ups and all that corporate BS stuff. And now I make more money than I did in corporate America. And my wife basically says I'm like retired. Like I do a lot of gardening and I volunteer at my kids' school and stuff like that. So I'm not here to brag, but I love it. It's so fun. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Nice. So I know a bunch of people who have really stuck to the just one person, I'm not hiring anybody approach. And I know a lot of people who have scaled to multiple millions and they've got a big team and what have you. Why did you stick to this? So you hated status meetings. So that's one reason not to hire anybody else. What was there, like philosophical reasons? Did you think it was going to be more profitable? Like you just didn't want to do it? Like why did you stick to just yourself?
I think it's a stress thing. I don't know. Because the last thing I did before I left corporate America, I was a manager and I had about 5 employees under me, and they were great people, but it was like a constant stress, like, oh my God, do they have enough to do? Are they feeling fulfilled? All this stuff. And so it was this anxiety that wasn't even related to me. I was inheriting other people's anxiety all of a sudden about stuff. And so I was like, I do not like this. And a couple things too. It's like, I don't know. I like this lifestyle where it's like, I'm just going to take off and not do anything. And then I would feel bad about taking a vacation or something, or just taking off. Then I'd have to make sure that the employees are feeling like, hey, Chris never shows up or anything, and I had this anxiety of like what other people think that are under my employment and stuff. And plus financial, if I need to go in cockroach mode, I can do it very easily being a solo person. So it's just like, I probably could make more money if I got a team and all that stuff, but I am the most chill I have ever been. And sometimes it's like, I couldn't pay for the amount of chill I have. So if I made more money, I couldn't invest in more chill. So that's kind of it. It's kind of the John Maynard Keynes approach. He just said at a certain point, we're going to make so much money that we will actually choose to make less money. So that's my life.
Okay. So team size wise, just you. Are you happy to share anything about like the number of customers you've got or the size of your audience or what have you?
Oh, yeah. So I have I operate a mailing list. That's the secret. That's where everything comes down to, is the mailing list. So I have 20,000 people on my mailing list. I didn't run. I think I ran the numbers for you, John, and I think I sent them to you. You could tell me. I don't know off the top of my head how many people who have bought something from me of some form. I think I may have sent that to you.
You told us 3,795. customers.
Okay, that's what I did at that time. So yep. And then we do. It's pretty particular to gaming, although I've seen it spread out. I use a Discord server, which I don't love as much because I don't own it. I don't love Discord. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but it's my industry lives on Discord, so I have to have a Discord server. So it's also about 20,000. So it always scales up with my mailing list, and I don't know the overlap. I don't know how many people are on the Discord and the mailing list. That's why I don't like Discord. It's very black box. Like I don't have access to their emails and stuff like that. So I don't know particularly how much overlap there is between my mailing list and my Discord, but it's also about 20,000 people on the Discord. And then my website, I can't remember. What did I tell you, John? I looked it up. I did my homework. It was a great exercise to look all that stuff up. But John, what do the records say?
It says 22,000 monthly website visitors.
22,000. So it's all, I should just answer 20,000 for everything. 2020, 2020. So that's my audience. And my industry is pretty insular. Like it's a very specific industry, actually quite a small industry. And so it works for me. I just live the life.
That's nice. I love that. And so I covered it briefly, but I don't know a massive amount about this whole space. So can you share for us, like, who do you help with your courses? What kind of problems are you solving for them?
Yeah. So there's this platform called Steam. If you're not into gaming, it's on PC, and they have it's a very bizarre situation, this Steam. It's run by this like elusive billionaire. I'm serious. This is all serious. Like he lives on a yacht and he just kind of like cruises around the world on his yacht. For COVID, he like banked himself in New Zealand and just chilled out he spent the pandemic in New Zealand, and it's this privately held company called Valve, and they made games, and then they run this platform called Steam that is the monopoly power basically on PC. So if you're going to sell a game on PC, you have to go through Steam. And they don't do advertising. Like, in other words, you can't advertise, you can't pay for your game to get better placement. It is all like merit based. They're like this real weird libertarian company that just like lives on a yacht, and they're super duper profitable, but because it's a private company, nobody knows how profitable. And so it's this platform that if you do well, you can do quite well for a small team. And they let all sizes. So you can be a huge company with making what they call AAA games, and then all the way down to a single game developer. And everybody, if your game's good enough, it's very merit based, and you can rise up the ranks and do it, and make millions. These games make millions of dollars. But the problem is, it's not a problem. It's a problem with a solution, and it's me. It's a very weird platform that if you do the wrong thing at the wrong time, it's like, well, your game's cooked, you just got to make a new one. Where it's like, because they have very specific visibility rounds that they kind of do, like when just to get a little specific, like when you launch a demo, what they call a demo for your game, which is a little slice of your game, if you do it one time, you get this big visibility boost. But if you time it wrong, or you don't do it in the right when you have the right amount of visibility, it was useless for you, and you missed out on a huge visibility. So it's if they made the platform easier, I wouldn't have a job. But I'm kind of the instruction book for this weird platform, and so I help people understand the platform so they don't make stupid mistakes. And so my customer base is what we call publishers, which are like it's a middle tier that they fund games and then they publish them under their name. And so they've got a whole stable of games that they launch every year. So they're bigger companies. Company size is probably like 5 to maybe 30 people are these publishers. And then I'll do game studios that release multiple games, and they're probably in the range of employees of like 5 also to 20. And then all the way down to small solopreneurs, and they're maybe like you and them and a couple friends. So it's like 1-person team, or 1 person and like 3-person team, somewhere in there. So that's pretty much the range of my customer. It's very prosumer, but it's also a lot of like hobbyists. They want to do this hobby, and they're with dreams of becoming millionaires, but they're still hobbyists. So that's kind of, I really consider it kind of a prosumer thing. But I'd say if I would boil it down to one persona, here's the funny thing about games. When you turn 30 and you maybe studied computer science with the dream of one day making a game. When you turn
Uh-huh.
30, you're like, oh my God, I haven't made a game. And so people go and they make a game when they turn 30. It's amazing. Like a lot of times I hear this thing like, oh, I was in the corporate rat race and I decided I needed to make a game. And I was like, I can message people like, you just turned 30, didn't you? And it's like more than anything. It just happens. And it's funny because I actually did the same thing. I got married or I was getting married and I turned 30 and I was like, I got to make a game. So I made a game and it's like this universal thing. Nobody wants a sports car anymore. They just want to make a game. If you're, kind of, if you know how to program or you do art and you love video games, you turn 30, you want to make a game. That in a nutshell is my core user.
Got it. Nice. All right, cool. Have you got a lot of competition in that space, or are you like the go-to guy on it?
So it's kind of, we have different business models. There's about four. I have one guy that I'm actually really friends with. Like we go out and get drinks at conferences. We always go to a tiki bar for a conference, and he writes a blog, but he's on Substack, and his business model is a little different. He runs a paid Substack, and he has an analytics platform, and I have the blog and the courses. So we have different business models, but we're both weekly bloggers. And then there's a couple other Substackers, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just games are so fun, but nobody else is really in the space, so to say. So it's maybe two or three other people, but we're friends. Like we're not competing against each other. So
nice. Okay, one thing that you've said is that you think that TikTok sucks, which I totally agree with that one in terms of like selling courses. It's terrible, it's so bad. Instagram sucks, Facebook sucks, and other forms of social suck. You even said that podcasting sucks. Now, can you talk us through that? Why do you hate on all of these? What do you think's wrong with them?
I don't know. I think okay, this is a longer thing, but I think in general, the internet, because I'm a 90s kid, I grew up, I made my first website like on AOL and stuff. And in general, I kind of came up through the blogging, like I was 20 when blogging was there. And I think that was peak internet, the blogging thing, because you basically owned your audience back then. And that was the thing. Like people used to just make a website. Like that was the day, it was like, you could go to like Jim's Tools and it was like Jim's Tools and he would just do tool reviews and it was on his website. And that was awesome. And then these big platforms, I'd say like the 2005, basically when what they did Web 2.0 and stuff, and the business model became, oh, we're a big company, we can build an audience, and it's very easy to submit. Like you used to have to make your own HTML, upload it to a server and all that stuff, and it was hard. And then when these kind of Web 2.0, these platforms like Google and stuff like that came up, it was just easier for people just to fill in a text box and post something. And then they got some visibility from that, and that warped people's brains. And my general theory on this is that it's like those platforms became so easy that people forgot the basics of like how to just make a website that you own. Like, and that's why I love blogging, is because I own the domain, I own the website, I own everything about it, I own my mailing list, I know I'm the dude. I own it. And all these platforms, they change and all this stuff, and it warped people's brains. Like when they're like a viral story, you always see stuff on New York Times and stuff. They're like, oh, this viral person went viral, and they're like on social media. Social media is a terrible conversion rate. You lose the platform, like with X and Twitter and stuff like that. You lost it if the audience shifted or the algorithms changed or new management came in. You just lose all this stuff. And so it's flashy and it's fun and everybody talks about it, but it doesn't actually work that well. Everybody's like drinking the Kool-Aid here. And that's why I say it sucks. And so it's slower to do a blog, but it just works, and it's not sexy, and it's not like nobody's going to write an article anymore about blogging. It's cool. Like when blogging first came out, they made movies about it, like that movie Julia. Have you watched that movie? Julia?
Yeah. Jules and Julia,
movie, but it stars a blogger, and it's like that was peak blogging. When they made a movie about a blogger, nobody's going to make a movie about a blogger anymore. But that's not because blogging doesn't work. It's just because social media is always sexier, and so our brains have been warped about what's actually working versus not. And I just basically my strategy is I write a blog every week, and it's not one of these corporate blogs, where it's like you read these things, and this is the thing, John. There's always these competitors that come in with like marketing for video games, and then the most bog standard blogs are like top 10 ways to increase your visibility on Steam. And it's the most boring thing. My blog is weekly, but it is like, I'm like an investigative journalist for the algorithm. I'm like, oh, let's try this thing. And it's silly. And sometimes there's typos and it's crazy, but it's my voice. I'm testing things and reporting on it. I don't know the answer. Sometimes it's silly. And so I'm really like investing in the blog. And just that weekly blog just spreads like wildfire. Like people hand it around and company things because we're a very tight, insular thing. So people, I have an autoresponder that says, "Hey, how'd you find me?" And a lot of the times it's people going, "Hey, so and so told me I have to subscribe to your blog. I'm forming a company. My friend said you have to read this blog," and that's how I find most of my customers. It's there. It's a weekly blog, and it's genuine, and so that works. It works so well, John. And the other thing is the one thing that does kind of work is YouTube. People would call me and they're like, "Chris, can you just interview like a YouTube thing?" And so I was like, "Yeah." And other people will quote my blog and stuff on their YouTube channels, and that'll drive traffic. So when I asked that autoresponder, "How'd you find me?" a lot of people I saw on YouTube were there. And so I would do these talks for if a university calls me, I will give them a free talk. I'll just, "Hey, I'll tell you kids how to do STEAM and don't blow yourself up." And those got a lot of views. And I was like, "Oh man, I got to do YouTube." Because I was giving away visibility to them. So I have a YouTube channel. It's not great, but that works. So it's YouTube and my blog, and it's just SEO. And people are like, "Oh, SEO is so hard." No, it's not. Like I outrank, if you search how to market a game or indie game marketing, I outrank like Reddit and stuff. Oh, and that's another one that works is Reddit. But what I do is if you search my blog, my URL, you will see that anytime anybody asks a question on Reddit, I have a blog that has the answer, and somebody will just post the answer. Like, just read this guy's blog. He has the answer. Like somebody will ask a question like, "How do I get wish lists?" which is the currency on Steam. And people are like, "Oh, just read Chris's blog." And it's just a link to my article. Or they'll have an internet fight and they just link to my blog. So it's all word of mouth. People are like, "Yeah, here's the answer. Just follow this." And so it is just, my blog is like so specific. It is just the answer. It's not fluff. I legitimately give you the answer. And if you just not try and do smoke and mirror stuff, like legitimately try and answer people's questions with real data, it works. And that's what I do. So all that stuff works. And to your point about like, "Hey, this sucks, and so, like, oh, let's just take podcasts." No offense, John, but like I'll go on a podcast, and I've legitimately tested this, like on a somewhat popular podcast. I'll be like, "Listen, I'm going to give away a free course. All you have to do is email me." And I just say my email address. I'll be like, literally, just email me and say "free course," and I will send you a key to a course. Like, not even a thing. I was just testing. I got like one person to do it. Like the click-through rate on podcasts is super low. And it's just, I think it's a lot of people are driving or running. And so if you have a call to action or you do anything, people will have to remember that by the time they get back from their run and be like, "Okay, I'll search this thing." And it just doesn't work. Whereas like YouTube, like if you, let me just qualify that. If you do your podcast and you upload to YouTube, I think that could work because you're either like on your phone watching a YouTube video and you can do whatever the call to action is, or you're at your desktop watching that thing. The call to action's right there. I just find podcasts are really a very low conversion rate as far as that kind of stuff. So in a nutshell, that's it. And all the social media stuff, it just doesn't, like, I've done call to actions and I've done all this stuff and it just has no impact. And at one point I was just like, I'm just going to stop. So sometimes I'll tweet if somebody like says a compliment about me on Twitter or something, I'll retweet it. But other than that, I haven't tweeted like a legitimate like tweet in like over a year. I've never posted to Instagram, never to Facebook, never to LinkedIn. Actually, LinkedIn still points to my old job. I didn't even update it because I was like, this is kind of weird to say I'm a video game consultant. So I've done basically no social media. All my growth, everything comes from a mailing list, a weekly blog, and YouTube appearances. And then everything else just flows from there. And it's super dead simple. I know it's lame. I know it's not the hippest, coolest, latest thing, but it works, folks. It just blogging is so freaking cool, folks. I want to bring it back. I want to make another movie about blogging. So let's do it, John.
All right, I'm going to give, because I obviously see a lot of people with a lot of different course businesses with various different forms of traffic. I'm going to kind of give my qualification on this. So YouTube is the one that I see work the most often. And it could be some kind of selection bias, but it seems to be at the moment that if you build an audience on YouTube, that converts really, really well to course sales. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is YouTube converts really well, or can convert really well if you do it right, to growing your email list. Much, much better than Instagram, much better than TikTok. Second one is this is particularly for long form on YouTube versus short form. People who watch long form videos about a topic are therefore likely to be interested in the long form video course about that topic. That tends to connect quite well. LinkedIn, I only know one person who is making money selling courses where they've built their audience on LinkedIn, and she is selling courses on how to build an audience on LinkedIn. So there's a real, like, that's a very specific use case. You know, it's not very broad. Instagram's terrible. It's not that you can't use it, and we've got clients who use Instagram and they make money selling courses, but it's really hard to get someone from your Instagram audience, or it's much harder to get someone from your Instagram audience to email list. So you have to use ManyChat. You have to get someone to comment a word, and then they automatically get sent a message and they get added in, and it's like a whole kind of process to it. But it doesn't convert nearly as well as YouTube does. SEO and like people who've got website traffic converts great, but I see over the years less and less of our clients, less and less of the people I work with, that's their traffic source. I don't know for definite why. If you've got a high traffic site, it converts better than any other traffic source in terms of percentage of views to email subscribers. YouTube, you can generally get to about 2%. Website, you can get to about 3 to 5%. I think your opt-in rate's like maybe, I think it was about 3 or 4%, something like that, from what you told me.
Yeah, I just find, and here's another wrinkle, and that's, I do this more qualitative. I used to be a UX designer. That was my day job.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of qualitative versus quantitative studies of my audience. Like when they opt into the mailing list, I ask them, hey, how'd you find me? And then I always respond to them because they'll say, oh, I found you on YouTube. And I find, this is not quantitative but qualitative, it's my gut. If somebody says like, oh yeah, my coworkers told me about it, or I found Google through a Google search, I'm like, oh, you working on something? And they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm the lead of the company, I'm the marketing director, and I got to study this stuff. I find if they found me through the blog and reading, they're upper management and they've got the purse strings, so they are the ones in charge of the money and hiring and spending stuff. That's awesome. And then if they come through YouTube, and this is particular to the gaming industry, because a lot of people, like I said, it's prosumer. So a lot of people love gaming and they love it so much they're like, I could make a game. And so I find if my audience comes from YouTube, I always ask, hey, are you working on anything? And they say, not yet, I'm thinking about it. So YouTube is a much younger audience. They're not invested in it. They're doing it as a hobby. So if you want to go the prosumer way, the pro way, if you want to go pro, it's blogging and traffic from that. If you want to do kids who are like new to this stuff, it's a lot on YouTube. That's just my general thought. Both are needed. I need both, but I find that that's the basic audience breakdown. So if you are doing something pro level, folks, blogging's still cool.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think for us, and we're kind of, I don't know many, you mentioned about podcasting, and so podcasting works fantastically if you can build an audience on it. It's a hard one to build an audience on, but when clients have come to us and they've said, I've got whatever 20,000 downloads a month for my podcast, I'm like, oh, we're gonna do great here. This is going to work really, really well, because podcast audiences are fanatically loyal, much more so than any other traffic source I've seen. Like maybe your blog readers, they sound fanatical, but because people will have it on their phone while they're walking or running or doing the washing up, or whatever, they'll listen to a lot of people will listen to every episode. And it's like, whereas with YouTube, it's like, oh, but I've got all these other things I could go and watch. With the podcast, people often like listen to, and some people have messaged me and told me, I've listened to every episode of your podcast twice. And I'm like, oh, twice? That's bold. There's 100 episodes, like, or more. I don't know what it is now. And I'm like, that's really intense. But it's hard to grow a podcast because it doesn't have any of those socials at the top of it. You know, it doesn't have a discovery mechanism for it. So the thing that works there, from our experience, is guest podcasting. So if you do guest podcasting, it does lead to then people listening to your podcast. It doesn't lead to direct action, like you're mentioning, like people asking people to email straight away. And I've seen that. It doesn't tend to. But I did a whole round of guest podcasting, and a year and a half later, we started getting a lot of inquiries from people who'd found us, heard me on another another podcast, come and started listening to my podcast, and then eventually been like, I love it. Now can we actually have a chat about this? And I'm like, oh, that's a long lead time, but it does work.
Yep. And that makes sense, because that's actually how I find. Yeah, I love to be clear, I love listening to podcasts. I'm always listening to podcasts. But that makes sense because I have discovered other podcasts based on the guest. So let me just make sure I understand your guest posting, your guest strategy when you say is you guest on somebody else's podcast, you take their listeners with you and back
Yes.
to there. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just podcasting has no built-in platform like YouTube where there's like some sort of recommendation algorithms or something
Yeah.
like that. So.
Yeah, and growing a podcast on YouTube, although it's doable, it's not really the easiest thing to do on there. We've been working on it, and it's like some progress, but it's not a smash success. But okay, you mentioned something earlier. I want to get back more into specifics of your business. You mentioned earlier that the email list is the secret. That's the thing, and that's something I bang on to everybody about all the time. So please, can you go on a rant about why the email list is like such a big deal? Why that's so important for you?
Yeah, it just works. Like, I don't know. I was an early convert. Like I way back, I just heard about podcast or mailing lists, and I was just like, yeah, I want to try this thing. So I just built it over years, and all it is just like I have an opt-in. Actually, I have two opt-ins. Like I have a book, and you can get a free book, and I also did a free course. When I was first dipping my toe into courses, I did a free course, and when you join it, it gets you into my mailing list system. But yeah, it's just basically it's my life raft. It's my thing where no matter what I do, I know get them back to the mailing list. And like it is something I own. Like nobody can take it away from me. I have these email addresses, and I have gone through multiple web hosting platforms, like I was on MailChimp. I'm on ConvertKit now. I've migrated different things, different platforms and all that stuff. And it just works. Like it's just like my open rate is 50%. 50% of people open up my mailing list.
Whoa.
And then my click-through rate's like 10 to 15% click-through rate. And so it's like 20,000 people. It just works. I don't know what it is. If I need people to do something, I just email them and it works. And I think the reason it's so high is I have this established thing. I am going to send you an awesome article about the latest trends in game marketing every single week. And people just know it. They're just like, okay, this is my article. And people tell me, they're like, Chris, your articles are great. I love your stuff. And it's just awesome. So I don't know, like you bang it on, it works. I swear it just is awesome. And I'm also a believer in, I think I listened to a couple of your past podcasts before I came on here. And it's just like, just keep it dead simple. Like I have an autoresponder. I think it's like a seven email autoresponder when they join. Basically every other day I'm like, hey, try this or go over here or look at this thing. It's super simple. It's not like this complicated if then thing. And that's it. And then they get tagged, and ConvertKit, I synced it up with my course thing, so I know how people buy, but I never really use that stuff. And I just email everybody on the list every single week. And then when it's course time, like I'm actually in the middle of a course sale, I hammer them a little harder. I'll do it multiple times a week, just like, don't forget. And I do fun stuff. It's like fun when it's course sales time. It's fun stuff. I'm always giving them free information. So they love the opening rate because it's like, hey, I'm going to do this cool article about this thing that's also in my course. And then they just get free information. So I just lavish them with awesome stuff. It is just fun. I love it. I love email.
Now, you said something in the info you sent me in advance that I really want to dig into, because this is great. You said that 3 to 5% of people will buy when you do a promotion.
Yeah.
That's so massive. I don't know if you know this, but that is massive. Like that's way above normal. Like most people, if they're launching a new course that they've never done before and they've got a responsive list and they do a great job, will get like 2%. And you're commonly getting 3 to 5%. So can you talk us through this a little bit more? Like, obviously you've got a very high open rate, which is great. You've got a very high click-through rate, which is great. You've got a fanatical audience, which is great. So all of that is a part of it. Is there anything else? You mentioned like you're lavishing people with fun stuff. Can you talk us through a little bit more? Like how long does a promotion last? What kind of discount are you doing? Like, and how do you do those promotions?
Yeah. And here's the other thing and I joined everybody's mailing list. I'm on yours, John. I just joined everybody's mailing list. And here's the difference is I treat my mailing list like blogging. I really do. Where it's like the reason they're on the mailing list is not because I'm on a lot of mailing lists, and the only time they get emailed is, oh, it's promotion time or all that stuff. Or hey, and it's like an old article that's like 5 years old or something, and you can tell it's kind of in this autoresponder. Like my weekly email is like stuff that's happening in the news, like right now in the gaming business industry. So it is up to date, latest stuff. And that's why my open rates are so high, is because I literally wrote it like an hour before, and then I sent it to them, and that's what it is. And it's not a promotional thing. So then when I enter into promotional period, which I am now, I just kicked off the thing. I try and make it fun, and I try and do multi-channel stuff. So like I said, I have the Discord channel. So it is like a little mini conference when it's sales time. And so what I do is, and I've tested this, I've done this previous things. Sometimes I got lazy, and I just did like, hey, sales on, email, and it just goes to the sales page and it's got all the discounts. And I put all my courses on sale. I do them seasonally, like a couple times. I know you like to do them more frequently, and I'm going to try doing more, but it's just exhausting to do them. The way I do them is I put it on sale, total sale, and I email my list. Now, last year I did it and I got lazy and I was just like, sales on, and I email blasted. And the open rate and click-through was fine, but the sales were poor. Not poor, but just they kind of scared me. I was like, oh my God, is my job over now? Like, do I have to go get a real job? And eventually they caught up, but I find, and I confirmed it this week when I did it, I kick off with a webinar. So what I do is, and it's not one of those cheesy webinars. It's like a live Q&A, and it's fun, and people come on and they ask their questions. It's like a radio call-in show, and I do that the very first thing, and then I do a promotion where it's like, if you come to the call-in show and you buy something during the live call-in show, I will give you a free thing. And I take one of my cheaper products, I give them to them free, and what I do is I keep it super dead simple. I just filter. I said, whoever bought in the hour that my Q&A was, I will give you a free thing. So it's that call to action, quick, get it on there. Everybody buy. And that just works really well. I see a good spike in the front, and then it kind of trickles down. And then I do basically every 3 days something fun. Like I will review. Steam pages are a big thing. It's like your landing page on the platform. So I'll do a critique. People submit their pages. I do a live critique, and I make it fun, and it's live. And then I do it on multi-channel. So on Discord, you can do a radio thing, and it's like a radio call-in show, but I can actually get people on stage. They ask their question. I say, thanks for your call, and then I answer it. So I do that. So it is a multi-channel event, and it's like a conference, and I'll bring in guests that have special things, and we'll interview them. And so it's just a party for 2 weeks. I also do affiliate sales with some YouTubers. Like, I said YouTube is actually pretty big. I've just found people who drove a lot of traffic to my channel. Like, in other words, like when I see the email list, it'll say, oh yeah, I found you on Code Monkey. He's a really good YouTuber about code and gaming. And so I just saw his name over and over. I found you on Code Monkey, And I was like, oh, okay. So I called that guy and I was like, do you want to do an affiliate thing? So he does. So I usually go show up on his YouTube show and we do an affiliate thing. So I'll answer his audience's questions. That drives it. So it is all on in this period, and that just gets the numbers over. So that's generally my course launch strategy.
Beautiful. That's cool, man. I love that. Okay, so it's 2 weeks. It's all your courses are on discount. If they buy something, they get another free. If they buy something during the Q&A session, they get something else free as well. Do they get to decide what else they get, or is it just they get?
No, it's just simple. Like I say, it's usually something that was recent, because I also do a conference every year. There's a big industry conference, and then I take the best speakers from that conference and I call them on the side. I'm like, do you want to do some of my side conference? And so I basically give the same talk from the big conference, but it's mine and I charge for it. And it's like $50. And so every year I've got a little $50 conference, and that's usually my giveaway. It's the last year's conference. It's just a collection of interviews that I do, very similar to what we're doing right now, but with somebody who's there. I sell that. And then I usually do that for the promotional thing. So you get a free thing, and they don't get to choose. Sometimes I see somebody, if I can go in the system and I just add it to their account, and then I'll see they already bought it, and I'll be like, here's another thing. I'll just find something else just to jam in there. And that's a tip too, folks. Make something cheap that's like $50. It's pretty fun. It's pretty universal. And if you ever have a customer service problem, you just give it to them. You're like, I'm sorry about that. Here, take this for free. And they're like, yeah, thank you. So it's I consider it the mortar. It's just these little things that you can just plug in. Like, something bad happens. No, here's this free thing that costs $50.
Nice. Okay.
So in general, here's another kind of interesting data point that I've kind of found. So 2/3 of the people who buy, because I run a promotion. I'm doing it quarterly now, one of these big promotions every quarter. About 2/3 of the people joined my mailing list in the last 6 months. So, and partially this could be that I have a flagship product, and I don't do a lot of products. I have this flagship thing. That's the moneymaker. That's my wishlist and visibility masterclass. And then I have a second one that's a similar, but it's a little bit, I partnered with somebody to do it. But that flagship one doesn't change. And I guarantee, I say lifetime access, here it is. And then I do littler courses throughout, but most of my audience has joined within the last 6 months. So, but it's not because people are falling off. I think just whoever's going to buy, if they're going to buy, they're going to buy in the next 6 months. If not, it's a little bit longer tail for that last third of the audience comes from the longer tail. So I don't know. I don't know. What is that? What do you think about that? Is that weird or normal? What's the story with that?
Yeah, it's not the most common. I think it may be the fact that you've got that one main flagship. If that's what everyone's buying, that main flagship product, that is probably a big part of it. But normally what we see is that people's buyers are 20 times more likely to buy the next thing than the non-buyers. So if they've got someone who's bought a course versus a person who's just on the email list, when they're selling a second course, the people who bought before are 20 times more likely to buy. Last time I actually looked at the numbers exactly, it was 22 times on one particular client. So the fact that you've got like nearly all of your customers are coming from the new ones, the new people signing up, it's like, well, in that case, it seems like, oh, well, if you did another thing, you'd sell so much because you've got all these incredibly loyal fans. But you're selling such a high percentage. It's like tricky to be like, do something different, Chris. It's like, I don't know, man. Something's working for you already. So, but probably that is still true. If you had something like, here's the more advanced version or whatever, you would probably sell a boatload of them to your existing buyers. How many other products do you have besides that flagship one?
Well, let's see. I've got something. So the history of my courses are the history of me learning how to make courses. So it's like the very first, my lead magnet, which is like how to set up your Steam page. That's my free course. And that was the first one I recorded. And I was just like, how does courses work? I'll just make the smallest, simplest unit and I'll give it away for free as a lead magnet. So that's free. That's first. Then the second one was like, can I charge money for this? And it's basically my, I was really into copywriting at the time. And so I had a big swipe list, of all that stuff, that I found like, oh, this is cool marketing. And so I just had this database of ideas that I had. So I was like, I'll just sell that to see if I can sell anything. Like that was my second thing. Can I sell stuff? And what's the percentages and stuff like that? So I built this database of I call it game marketing ideas. So it's a swipe list that people can buy. And so that was my second thing for paid. And I was like, okay, that converted well enough. It is worth me to really make a course. And so then I did the masterclass, which is my flagship thing. And it is everything I've ever known just in that class on how to market your game. It's a roadmap. It's everything right there. So that was my flagship. And then I did another course and then every year I do this mini conference. So that kind of kicks off the year. And that's in April where I bring in industry people and I just interview them. And so it's like a $50-ish course it's not a course, it's really a conference, but it's technically a course. And then I had last year, I partnered with somebody else who's got a specialty adjacent to mine. And I coached them through the course and then we just split the revenue 50-50. So, and that's a different course that I run through the platform. So I don't know how many that was. So that's basically it for courses.
Yeah. Okay. And do you do anything like you mentioned like sales page critiques. Do you do anything like that on a paid ongoing basis, like a membership or anything on those kind of things?
I was thinking about it, like a membership something or other. I was thinking about it, but I don't know.
Too much
how do those typically work? How does that work?
Well, it depends massively on how much you're willing to do live. So there's a range of how they work. I'm a big proponent of them in terms of like increasing revenue for people. The downside is sometimes they introduce more complexity than some course creators want to have. So as an example, so I'll start with the standard and then I'll give you some examples of like how they vary. So one of the standard ones is that you have people pay a monthly amount and you have access not only to the course but Q&A sessions with you in a group setting, and you can charge a decent amount for those depending on like how much money your target audience is making, but definitely like hundreds a month that people will pay. Like, as a guy I know who's teaching how do you grow your YouTube audience, and he charges $650 a month for doing those. We do something like that where we charge $950 a month for group coaching. So there's group coaching calls, and then there is Q&A, Slack access, so you can ask questions or you can ask questions via email, what have you. Then I know a guy who hates doing stuff live. He doesn't want to have any calls booked in his calendar, but he did find that it was really useful to be giving people individual feedback as opposed to just courses. And he's helping specifically entrepreneurs who are normally aged about 30 to 50, who are successful financially, but they want to get jacked. And they are more scientific based, and it's only guys, and he helps them with email. He does email coaching only. So every 2 weeks they send him the spreadsheet with like, here's all the workouts I did, here's all the stuff that I lifted, here's my macros, everything that I ate. Here's how much how much weight I gained. Here's my body fat percentage as measured by all these different places. And he'll be like, right, here's how we're going to tweak exactly what you're going to do. But all of it is through email. And he
Well,
charges like $700 or $800 a month for that because it's very bespoke. It's one-to-one, but it doesn't involve any calls. So normally if you do calls, you can charge more. If you do it group, you can charge a bit less. And then there's a whole way of kind of mixing them up in between.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
If you fancy doing it, I bet your audience, it sounds like from what you told me that your audience would be likely to like. Obviously you have to test and find out, right? But it might get in the way of all of your, being
Like
retired on
gardening.
the side. Exactly.
It would
Yeah.
get in, it would step into my gardening time. Really.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
half retired here, John.
I've
So
got a
no,
friend.
I think it's cool. I think that sounds cool. Yeah. I would have to figure out how to slice it the right way. Yeah. Interesting. I
I
always like
got
to
a
hear what the
friend
other people do.
who he tried for a while building up like a big paid group coaching program, very sales focused, lots of sales calls to sell it, what have you. And he was aiming to like get hundreds of thousands a month in revenue and what have you. And it was really stressful. And every month I'd have a call with him and he'd be so stressed. And it was like, but he was making a lot of money, but sometimes he wasn't. And sometimes it wasn't working. He was managing a team and he hated it. And then he fired everybody and went back to just being him and an assistant. And he's the most chill person that I know. He's so relaxed. And he's like, John, have you considered just working less and going rock climbing more? Rock climbing's really good fun. I'm just like, James is onto something here,
Your
James
editor
has
is
got
listening to you say that right now and being like,
yeah, I know, right? It's like I have no plan to do it, but I was like, I like my team and I like working with them. But I'm like, James has figured something out that is like there is something smart going on there. And it's like, and you're kind of saying the same thing, right? Just you, and you don't have to worry about everybody else.
I don't have to learn that. Like I already know that.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I bring people on, and then it's like the stress level is going to go up. The money you can't pay to lower your stress levels. I really don't think you can. So the secret is just not to have the stress levels, so I don't have to pay to bring them back down again. So I'm just keeping it chill. I don't know. Just keep it chill, everybody. Like let's talk less about hacking everything and just talking about chilling out, everybody. Hey, let's all chill.
Is there anything that you do find that's a challenge for you with your email marketing or your funnels or like obviously not your audience building, but is there anything that you are finding challenging?
I mean, though, that's the main thing that I'm trying to figure out is how much I need to do. And that's like, I'm trying to like do as little as possible while still getting there. I mean, I'm constantly kind of afraid that like the bottom's going to drop out and it's like one day I'm going to run a sale and it's not going to work. It hasn't happened yet. And so I'm constantly kind of there. Like I said, last year, I kind of went a little too lax. And I just like sent an email like sales on and the numbers were really bad. So I kind of like ran to catch up and I like in the middle of it started adding more stuff, did more promotion towards the end of the sale. And so that's kind of my lesson learned was like, how much do I actually have to do to get this sale to hit? And so I think that's the constant stress is just like, how much is too much and how much is too little? That's the stress I'm kind of having, and just the fear of the unknown of like, well, what happens if it all goes away? Like it just doesn't work. But so far it's okay. So the main thing that I don't like is the main stress and stuff like that is usually after one of these like if I do a big call or something, there's just a come down that I have to kind of like regulate myself back down to reality because it's just like also hyper. I'll get sweaty. Like I'm in Arizona, so I'm sweaty all the time anyway. But I'll be like sweating by the end of it. So there's a recharge period, and also just emotionally. The reason I don't like one-on-one coaching, I used to do that, is it was just emotionally, like sometimes I'd have to tell people, I was like, this isn't working. I'm sorry, what you're doing just isn't working. But I'd have to, put it in a nice way, in a coaching way. And that just stresses me out so much. And I feel bad if I was like, oh man, I was a little too hard on that critique. And then it bothers me all day. So it's mainly I don't know, doing work stresses me out. I don't know what it is, John. That's my stress.
One of the things I think I want to harp on a little bit that you do that is great, that you mentioned during your promotions, is that you're doing live webinars, these like Q&A sessions, webinars, and almost nobody does them. Like people course creators as a whole just don't seem to want to do them, and they work fantastically well. And it bothers me because I'm like, if you guys would just get over yourself enough to be all right with doing these, you would be able to like add 50% to your revenue. And I know nobody wants to hear it. So I don't always, I used to bang on about it all the time and it didn't seem to make any difference. So I just kind of like, okay, people aren't going to do it. Let's just talk about email promotions. And still people struggle with that one as well. But it's like, at least it gets through and people do start to do them. But I've got a client at the moment who he's very, very successful. very multiple millions a year in revenue selling courses. Is he as chill as you? I'm not sure, but he's just done a promotion recently where he did a webinar for the first time, and he made a shed load of sales. And he's just like, I should do more webinars. I was like banging on at him about, yes, this is why they work. They're so good. They're fantastic because of this, and this. This is why they work so well. This is how much we've seen. And he's like, done. I'm in. Right. And he messaged me yesterday and he's just like, I'm thinking about adding some webinars into this upcoming launch. And I'm yes, yes, do it. And like, let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. What topics you got? Let me help you plan it, because they're so good. And you're seeing that, right? That's something you said when you didn't do that. It didn't work as well.
Yeah, I would say, just not super scientific, but I was looking back at my last year's sales numbers. And when the lazy one, when I did lazy summer, that was my lazy summer last year. So far, I've tripled how much I make in that same period. So like, I did the lazy launch in my first 3 days are equal that 1 day of doing the webinar at the kickoff. So this year I did the webinar kickoff. That was equal to the first 3 days of my lazy summer last year. So it really does work. And I can understand them. Like, I don't like to do traditional webinars either. I bet I could even earn more because I've watched some of those like pre-recorded webinars that course creators do, and they're very salesy. It feels like QVC. It feels like you're on the customer buying network or whatever. You're like, or an infomercial. I don't run them quite that way. I mean, what I'll do is the reasons I do like them is you get in touch with the community. Like, what are the questions? Because I run them as a Q&A. I don't call them a webinar or anything. Because the gaming audience is very cynical. They really are. So they're very savvy, they're tech savvy and cynical. So if I were like, join this webinar, they'd be like, mm-mm. So I just say, hey, it's a Q&A. And it's a Q&A. So I say, hey, show up, ask your questions about game marketing, and I'll just answer them. And then that does 2 things. One is I just find out what are the questions people having with marketing games. And sometimes I've got a notepad during the talk and I'm like, oh my God, my course doesn't answer that question. That's a good question. So I'll write it down. So it's feeding the course, like what I'm going to be writing about in my next version of the course. And then also sometimes it'll be like, that I can give you the short answer for this question, but the long answer is in the course. And here's the course. And you would want to watch this. I'm just doing that. And then it's not like I'm just selling. It's like, it's helpful. It's like, yes, I have a specific lesson for that. It would take me an hour to explain it. Just watch the course. I promise, go for it. And that is enough just to sell people. They're like, okay, he knows what he's talking about. And the Q&A part just proves my expertise because I can just answer any question. You cannot trick me with a question. Like I've heard them all. I've heard every question. So it is super powerful. So yes, do the Q&A, do a webinar, but don't call it a webinar. That sounds gross. Call it a Q&A with your community and they love it. And so what I do is I do a Q&A on all my channels. I've got a YouTube Q&A tomorrow. I have a webinar, like webinar software that I use, and I did that yesterday. And then I do a one on my Discord server, a live chat, and that one's in a couple days. So I do several on different platforms, different audiences, but it's all the same basic format of question and answers. So do it.
One thing I've been wondering about, we messaged about this a little bit before, what's similar between marketing games and marketing courses, and what's different? Is there stuff that you've learned from marketing games that has helped you with marketing courses?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. So, I mean, the hard part about games is nobody needs video games. Like nobody needs them. It's a pure luxury buy and it's a hobbyist market. So hobbyists will buy lots of games that they'll never play, but they just like the idea of it. It's a weird thing. Like people will buy like whatever hobby. I don't know what hobbies you have, but any hobby, like I buy plants I'm not going to put in my garden. Like I love this plant, but I can't figure out where I'm going to put it. If you're a knitter, you have yarn that you just like the color of and you buy it because of that. And so the mentality is different. Whereas like a course, I need this information and I am judged by how well I produce that information. But games are so ephemeral. They're very much like jokes. Like, why are some jokes funny and some aren't? It's the same way. Why are some games fun and some aren't? And this is a big thing. If you are a 30-year-old person and you're thinking about getting into games, it is very hard. Like you listen to this like, oh yeah, I have always wanted to make a game. It is very, very tricky. I think people underestimate that because if your game is not fun, you're dead. Like there's nothing, no marketing can fix that. because people buy it to have fun. And so this is the hard part is with a course launch, like I said, like lazy Friday or lazy summer last year. Yeah, I messed up, but I could fix it. I could get it back on. Or even if I had a bad course, like my first version of my course, not so good, and I fixed it. With a game, if your game's not fun, it's very hard to fix it. You just basically have to start over and redesign a whole new game. You can't just coerce it into something that's good. It's just the nature of our art form. And so game marketing is very hit or miss. It's a hit driven industry where it's like, is this going to hit? And it's like Hollywood, like this movie's a hit. Yeah, everybody loves it. This movie's not, and it bombs. And then if it bombs, it goes away. It's just not there. And so you were asking like, well, what lessons can you learn? And it's like, I wish I had a good answer for you, because with the course business and this, if you mess up your launch, all this stuff, you can fix your course. Maybe you adjust it. Maybe you do have to record. Maybe it's like, oh, this offer isn't very good, so I have to do a different course. But it's not like gaming. Like if you miss the mark with games, you're dead. And a lot of like on PC, that platform Steam, if you are not selling your game on Steam, it's not going to sell. Like you are dependent on Steam, which sucks. I hate that we have to depend on another company. Whereas course sales, it's my mailing list, my website. Sure, I might need a little YouTube, but I can sell a course. I don't rely on, it would be what was that what's that other, that scummy tutorial site? It's like Udemy or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like we don't need Udemy. We can just sell off my own website. And so that's different from course sales. With video games, you have to sell through Steam and you have to follow their rules and their way of promotion. And if you really don't, you're kind of toast. I think there are very few corollaries between games and Steam, or games and course marketing. I'm trying to think of some, but I don't know. It's hard. Don't make games, folks. If you're not already invested, don't think. Sometimes, so here's the thing: is like, it's a passion-driven audience, and I find some people are like, I kind of want to make a fun game with my kid. Yeah, that's fun. Make a fun game with your kid, but it won't sell on Steam. It is like so serious, so hardcore what sells on Steam that don't get into it if you're not a super fan. Like you have to love this stuff.
Chris, this has been absolutely awesome. If people want to check you out, where should they go? And you've mentioned...
I told John, I don't want any call to action. If you're not ready to make games, don't join my mailings. You're gonna F my numbers up. I'm like, man, I got all these subscribers from John's awesome podcast, because podcasts work. And it's like all these people, and they're just here to like listen to my game marketing. And then I'm like, why aren't these people converting? Oh, they came from John's podcast. So if you're not into games, don't join any of my stuff. No, I mean, yeah, it's... Just go to howtomarketagame.com. Don't join my mailing list. I don't care. I'm just kidding. But yeah, howtomarketagame.com is my website. You can search me on YouTube too. You can kind of see my YouTubes, or search YouTube for my name. Just because a lot of the reason I did YouTube was because I was guesting on so many podcasts, and I noticed every time I guested on somebody else's YouTube channel, their numbers would go up. I was like, wait, why am I giving away that traffic? So I should do it. But my YouTube channel is kind of like, I don't really love it, but so you could watch my YouTube channel, I guess. But yeah, that's it. But again, folks, unless you're a diehard gamer, don't make a game.
Wicked. Thanks so much for coming on, Chris. I really, really appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks a lot, John. It's been a pleasure.
And everybody else listening, thank you so much. As always, we really, really appreciate you. And we will see you next time.